I'm joined by Suketu Mehta. He's a writer, a professor here at NYU, and also he's part, in a sense, of a circle of friends and a kind of extended literary parivar of Salman Rushdie here in New York. Thank you very much indeed, Suketu, for talking to us. In a sense, it's the first time we're getting to speak to you after that terrible attack. I know how personally you were affected by it. But just first give us a sense of how he's doing, because that's what everyone wants to know.
Sure thing. So Salman is incredible. He was stabbed over a dozen times, and he's as lucid and cogent as ever. There'll be a long recovery ahead.
He's lucid and cogent as we speak.
Yes,
Okay.
he can speak, and he's going to be writing more than ever. You know, he's some combination of Jesus Christ, a phoenix, and Rasputin. Nothing can get my friend down.
Is this what you told him? Or?
I did indeed tell him this, and he laughed. So he has a sense of humor.
This is important information. You spoke to Salman Rushdie. When was this?
This was last week, so it's a very short conversation.
Okay. This is while he was in, because he's still recovering. He's still in.
He is still recovering. His location obviously can't be revealed for security reasons. But my friend is very much alive, and he is going to be writing more than ever, because although his body has suffered grievous injuries, his mind is as sharp as ever. He is up and joking, and he has a large circle of family and friends that are going to take care of him.
Okay, so this is all very interesting and important things you're telling us. You're telling us that, you know, the big quote unquote headline from this is that he's survived this, because at one point there was even a question mark over how he's going to recover. He's recovering. He's mentally alert.
Yes.
His faculties are all there. He's communicating. He spoke to you. He even laughed at your always top-notch humor, so, which is all good. But obviously the road to recovery is going to be long.
Yes.
So
he has been pretty badly hurt. The guy is 75. I should be so lucky to be in such good shape at 75. And he, was stabbed by a man with sort of satanic energy on the stage. The whole world seen those videos. So his body's taken a bruising, but he obviously will have the best medical care in the world and the love and support of his friends. And the thing with Salman is that during the fatwa, he obviously was never hurt physically himself, but his translators were assassinated, his
in Japan,
editors,
yes.
Japan, Norway. There was a riot in Turkey where I believe some 28 people died. So, he's had this kind of, he's lived under these bizarre circumstances, and he's had bodyguards around him during the fatwa years for, I think it was 8 years. But since he came to New York, he's been pretty open. I've dined at a number of restaurants with him, where he walks around the streets. So that will probably be circumscribed for a while.
Sure.
And the extent of his injuries. Now, I want to make clear, I haven't seen him personally.
Sure.
I hope to see him, whenever he's ready to receive visitors. But he is definitely sharp as ever. He's got a sense of humor. He was making jokes, laughing at my jokes, which is a good sign.
What joke did he make? Do you recall it all, or what was that?
Well,
is it fit to is it fit to print?
They may not be very funny to people who don't really know him.
I understand.
But they're more like in-jokes about people we know.
I understand. When you say that he's going to be writing, this is of course wonderful news. We don't want to get into too much of the details of the injury, because that's his personal. But there was some details shared by his agent about particularly injuries to his eye and so on, optic nerve, and so there was that worry about, all those faculties which are important to, of course, all of us as human beings, but particularly to writers. So is that?
Yes.
Is he
So yeah,
okay
as
on
his
that?
agent said, his eyes suffered grave damage, and again, I told him I'd get him a pirate's eye patch, and he'll look very dashing. The thing with Salman, humor is important. A sense of not being defeated by the is important. And that's with my conversation with him, even before this incident, when I've talked to him about the fatwa years, it's very important for him to not to be bloody-minded. He's a Bombay boy. This is what you got to realize about Salman.
Right.
He, like me, we're both Bombay boys,
Yes.
and Bombay boys can take a beating and still stand up to the world.
And have a laugh.
And have a laugh. It's like, it's, and obviously, I don't want to make light of it. It was
Sure,
a horrific thing
No,
that
no.
happened to him. When I first heard about the stabbing, I didn't know whether my friend would be around, would live. And it is quite a miracle that he endured a dozen stab wounds to his body.
Right.
And he, as the old Timex watch ad said, he takes a licking and keeps on ticking.
But when you said that he's keen to write, this is something he's conveyed, that he's going to, in a sense, almost respond to the attack through the pen.
Right. So we didn't speak about the writing, but I am sure, again, knowing my friend,
Yes.
that he is going to be writing now for revenge. Whatever damage his body might have suffered, his mind is, as I said, all there, and he is going to find ways of communicating, of writing. The exact logistics, I don't know at this moment. I don't know the nature of his injuries,
Right.
but this one thing I'm absolutely sure about, that he'll be writing more than ever.
Right.
Also, because he's going to be at home and not going to as many cocktail parties, which is always an enforced isolation for a writer.
Right. But this is the other thing, though, that as you were saying, that, over the years, his world had started to open up. It was less restrictive. He was able to move around and do quote unquote normal things, like even going to that conference and just turning up there in public would have all been part of that. But that's the other fear, that now post this attack, does it again, not just because of his injuries and so on, but even otherwise now for his own safety, does it shrink his world again?
Yes, almost certainly. He will not, for a while at least, be able to be as public as he was. He would give the event that he attended in upstate New York was a public event. It was advertised. You could buy tickets to it. He teaches with me at NYU, so he would hold classes. That will probably have to be restricted for a while. But again, he was underground for 8 years doing the fatwa and then came out. So it just depends on and what kind of security he might have. So the guy that attacked him, this young punk, was
Hadi Matar, or Matar, you pronounce the name.
apparently he acted alone. We don't know of any government that paid him, although there is this bounty, but I can't see the guy going to the Ayatollah and demanding payment.
Especially now.
Yes. But this is the thing. Writers these days, whether it's Salman or writers in India, writers in Turkey, writers in Russia, we're under attack globally. There's a global war of storytelling because the world has these ayatollahs and populists, and what these people can do is they can tell a false story well.
Yes.
They can tell a lie well.
Yes.
And Salman gave a talk recently at the UN in which he said about writers, he said, we have to learn to tell better stories. So the only way these populists and ayatollahs can be fought, because they can tell a false story well, is by telling a true story better.
Yes.
And this is why writers, journalists are under attack worldwide, because they know that we can match them in this battle of storytelling, and that's why we're a threat to them.
In fact, it's interesting you mentioned that, because Salman Rushdie was part of this whole kind of collective of writers who put a whole collection of pieces together for the India's this Amrit Mahotsav, as it's being called.
Yes.
But the 75th year, and it was actually a collection of some fairly angry and anguished pieces as well about what's happening in India, and his was very much part of that.
That's right. So I was one of the people that curated this collection. It was Pen America, and we gathered 113 of India's best writers, half of them living in India and half abroad, to write about, our love for India. So I want to stress that above all, it's a document of love for India. We want to see India flourish. We're proud of India. We want it to be better than it is today. And Salman was actually the first person of the writers that we reached out to, who responded, and he's got this piece saying Hindustan isn't Hamara anymore. And I know that in our private conversations, he's been very concerned about the rising tide of Hindu nationalism, the attacks on writers, on journalists. Here's the thing about Salman Rushdie. People think that, it's only the Muslims that hate him. No, all tyrants everywhere hate him, because if you are a persecuted writer anywhere in the world, you have no better friend than Salman Rushdie.
Right.
He has come to the aid of Muslim writers, Hindu writers, Christian writers, atheist writers, communists. He basically knows very personally what it means to be hated for your writing, to have actually not just to be hated by individual loners and nuts, but entire governments and self-proclaimed religious figures.
No, that's interesting, because the pieces that came out in that collection were obviously very critical of the current regime, and typically if someone, because that's the kind of extremist, whatever one wants to call it, the right wing or Hindutva ideology associated with the regime, here you have Salman being attacked by someone, in a sense, from the extreme Islamist fringe or whatever. We don't know enough about this man, but clearly it seems to be stemming from that at least. Typically there would have immediately been a reaction from the Indian side, from the government or somebody saying, we condemn this. If nothing at all, because Salman Rushdie is a writer of international acclaim of Indian descent. But there was silence for weeks.
That's right, and that was shameful. I mean, he is arguably the most famous living writer in the world, and there is, I think, a good shot that he might win the Nobel Prize this year. There was actually an amazing editorial by David Remnick, the editor of the New Yorker, calling for him to be given the Nobel Prize. And I think the Swedish Academy could, if they're doing their job, they would honor this writer this year.
Interesting.
As not just for the phenomenal quality of his work. I mean, Midnight's Children made me leave the family diamond business and become a writer.
I didn't know this.
My parents blame Salman
for your downward spiral.
Exactly.
But this, sorry, I missed this Remnick piece. This came out in the aftermath of the attack?
Yes. It's a piece in, I believe, the current edition of the New Yorker. It's an editorial by Remnick making the case for Salman winning the Nobel Prize.
Very
so
interesting.
I wonder what the Indian government's reaction is going to be then. And it was telling that they didn't rush to praise him, because, I've tweeted in support of Salman, and just all these bhakts who would troll me on my timeline. But their big thing before, whenever people attacked Hindutva, was, what about Salman Rushdie? Look at the people who want to kill him for his writing. And when this actually happened, there were very few of the bhakts going to Salman's defense, because this is the thing about him. Yeah, he is. I remember I had a conversation with him on stage at NYU about among other things, the Islamic Center at the World Trade Center. So there was a proposal for not a mosque but an Islamic center
I remember that,
on the
yeah.
grounds of the World Trade Center,
Yes.
on the ruins of the World Trade
And
Center.
huge uproar
And all kinds of people, notable people in New York, in America said no, this would be desecrating the memory of the victims to have an Islamic center in this hallowed ground. Salman Rushdie, who these, want to kill, stood up for the Islamic Center and said publicly, if they're allowing a church, they should allow an Islamic Center. It's got nothing to do with religion. So this is the consistency of his principles.
You were mentioning that, as we start to wrap, you were mentioning that there's a kind of a tribute to him. This
There are a number of tributes.
weekend,
There's this one this weekend in Pittsburgh, which a couple of friends of mine are going to, and it's actually by the same organization that he was speaking at, City of Asylum, which
Right.
provides asylum for persecuted writers worldwide. And it's going to be moderated by Henry Reeves, the same brave man who was on stage with Salman and was also
he
attacked.
was also attacked, yes.
He's going to be moderating this. There's going to be another tribute by PEN America on Monday, where a number of the country's best writers are speaking. The tributes worldwide. And actually, this act has energized writers around the planet to speak up, and people are reading out from the satanic verses, from Midnight Prison, from his work. So this cowardly stabbing has had the opposite effect. More people will be reading Salman Rushdie than ever before.
Okay, well, interesting, and also good that through these tributes, while he recovers, that it kind of keeps the whole kind of legacy and importance of someone like him, it keeps that very much center stage. But Suketu Mehta, thank you very much indeed for talking to us. Thanks very much.
Absolutely. Lovely.